Hey everyone, I hope everyone is doing great. It's been a little while since the last reading update. Uh, I know I normally try to do these every week, uh, but sometimes life just gets in the way. And last week I was still reading the same book I was reading the week before, so I felt like I didn't really have enough new things to talk about. Now I could have made a very short video saying I'm still reading the same book, but I figured it was probably better to wait until I actually had something to talk about. And then after that, the rest of the week I was just really busy. Uh, there wasn't as much time for reading as I would have liked, which is always a bit frustrating when you're in the middle of a book and you want to keep making progress. But that's just how it goes sometimes. The good thing is that I do have a few things to talk about now. I managed to finish one book and start another, and I'm already looking ahead to my next read. Anyway, let's start with the book I finished, which is Red Seas on the Red Skies by Scott Lynch, the second book in the Gentleman Bastard series. And this was probably one of my most anticipated reads in a while, because of how much I loved the first book in the series, The Lies of Log Lamora. And that book completely surprised me. Uh, Now I went into it with some expectations because it's such a beloved fantasy book, and sometimes this can actually make it harder to enjoy a book because you're constantly wondering if it will live up to the hype. But with The Lies of Log Lamora, I thought it absolutely deserved the praise. And it quickly became one of my favorite fantasy books I've ever read. I love the characters, especially the two main characters, Locke and Jean, and I love the atmosphere of the city, uh, and I love the combination of fantasy, clever schemes, and heist elements. And it was just such a fun book to read. So going into Red Seas Under Red Skies, I knew it had a difficult task ahead of it. Following up a book that you consider one of your favorites is always going to be a challenge. Uh, and even a good sequel can sometimes feel disappointing simply because the first book set the bar so high. And unfortunately, uh, that was kind of my experience with this one. I won't say this was a bad book, and there are definitely things that I really enjoyed. The characters are still great, and spending more time with Locke and Jean is always a positive. Uh, and there's some really entertaining moments, and Scott Lynch still has a really great writing style. But comparing it to the first book, something just felt missing. Uh, and the biggest difference for me was the tone. Uh, the Lies of Locke had a very specific feeling to it. It had this combination of danger, humor, clever planning, and a feeling that actually anything could happen. It was a fantasy world, but it also felt grounded because so much of the story was about people trying to survive through intelligence and deception rather than simply relying on magic or power. And with Red Seas Under Red Skies, it felt like it was going in a different direction. Uh, some of the things that made the first book special weren't as present. And the overall experience just didn't connect with me in the same way. And I think expectation played a big part as well. If this had been a completely separate fantasy novel, I think I might have had a very different reaction. But because it was following one of my favorite fantasy books, I was constantly comparing the two. And unfortunately that comparison wasn't always kind to the sequel. And now after finishing it, I actually ended up in a bit of a reading slump. And I think a part of that was because I had been looking forward to this book, and when it didn't quite deliver what I hoped for, I didn't immediately know. I didn't immediately feel like wanting to read something next. And sometimes you finish a book and you're immediately excited to start another one. Other times you need a little bit of time before picking up the next book. And for me, this was definitely one of those moments. But after a few days, I finally felt like reading again, and I picked up my next book. And luckily, it turned out to be exactly the kind of book that I needed. And that book is Swear by Michael Crichton. And this is actually my first time reading a Michael Crichton novel. He is obviously a very famous author in the science fiction and thriller genres, but somehow I had never gotten around to reading one of his books before. And I have to say, this was probably the perfect book to get me out of that reading slump. From the very beginning, it just grabbed my attention. It's such a fast-paced science fiction thriller, and the chapters are incredibly short, and the writing is very accessible. And every time you think you can put the book down, another chapter ends with a new question or a new mystery. It has a classic just one more chapter feeling to it. And we all know how that goes. You tell yourself you're only gonna read one more chapter, and suddenly you're still reading an hour later. The story follows a group of scientists who are sent deep beneath the ocean to investigate a mysterious object that has been discovered on the ocean floor. And they believe it could be an alien artifact, and the job is to examine it and figure out what exactly they have found. And I really like stories that combine science fiction with mystery, because they create that feeling of discovery. And you're learning what is happening at the same time as the characters, and the book keeps asking you questions. What is this object? Where did it come from? What does it mean? And maybe most importantly, should we even be interacting with it? Now I don't want to go too much into the plot, because part of the enjoyment comes from discovering the mystery yourself. But I really enjoy the way Crichton builds tension. And after coming from a book that left me feeling a little disappointed, this was exactly the type of reading experience I needed. Something exciting, and something that moves quickly, and just something that makes you want to keep turning pages. And it's just a very different type of science fiction compared to some of the more philosophical or slower paced sci-fi books that I've read recently. But sometimes that's exactly what you need. And now I'm already thinking about what I want to read next. And my next read will be Dawn by Octavia Butler. And this will also be my first time reading anything by Butler, which is something I've been meaning to fix for quite a while now. She's one of those authors who comes up again and again whenever people talk about important science fiction. So I'm very curious to finally experience her work for myself. And once again, I'm continuing the theme of reading about aliens. Now I definitely didn't plan this, but after reading Swayer and moving on to Dawn, means I'm staying with science fiction and alien related stories for another book. And from what I've heard, Butler's approach to science fiction is very different from a lot of other authors. Her books are often less focused on just the technology or the spectacle of science fiction, and much more focused on the human side of these situations. How people react, how societies change, and what difficult questions these scenarios create. And it sounds exactly like the science fiction I enjoy, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what I think. So yeah, I think that's it for this reading update. It was a bit of a mixed reading week. I had a disappointing sequel with Red Seas and Red Skies, but then I found a book that completely pulled me out of my slump with Sphere. Uh, and honestly, uh, that's one of the fun things about reading. Sometimes you just don't know uh, what book is going to be the perfect book for you at a particular moment. And a book that might not work one week could be exactly what you need another week. Anyway, like always, let me know what you've been reading recently. Uh, and love to know, have you read any of these books? If you made it this far, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video.